previous tape, Ryan is putting a test flight in. This is an official flight, isn't it?
Yeah.
Man, it's so good he flies official flights with test props. Even I don't do that. Egotist that I am. Anyway, he's got one of the test APCs on a Sato 56 and a glove. Boy, don't never flip an APC. Well, don't flip any prop. These carbon guys will cut your finger right off. One of the APCs on the Sato 56. This is actually the first time he's had this prop on the plane. And the wind is pretty stiff, so we're going to get a little indication of if this is possible. Ryan's an intermediate level flyer, so we don't expect to make it any more difficult to get this right than before. It looks like it slowed the plane down a bit from what it was. It's a foam wing cardinal kit, cut by Johnny Duncan, with Ryan's own lightweight finish of clear Brodak dope and dyed tissue. You can access the controls by taking the pilot. There's a little hatch right behind the pilot, and he's got kind of a plywood dummy engine thing on the nose. But very easy plane to build. Foam components, and a quick, I bet you could build a body in a day. So at the end of this flight, we'll see if this is going to be any... We were trying to work with APC to develop some props that can be a bolt-on for some of these motors, specifically the 72. Joe Adamusco has some of the APCs, but he's going to go with the wood props for the rest of the contest. Right now there is a strong wind blowing. And I see that it's clouding up, looking like we may get something we haven't had enough of. Some rain. Good choice. Good choice. Now, bro, what happened here? Brian had trouble starting the plane and used up quite a bit of the fuel. He has an electric starter, but he chose to flip start it by hand. And so what happened is then finally he ran over and got the electric starter. So I guess the lesson is keep the electric starter right by you at all times, just in case. So that ends our first APC test. All right, Brian! Greg is falling asleep at the switch over here. Said this contest is going to the dogs, and they were right.
That is correct. I love the coat.
Yeah. Al likes monocoat so much he got a monocoat of his dog.
Actually, it's the 21st.
Save a few bucks on those trips to the vet for a trim.
In Cub Yellow, I believe.
Yeah. Look, he's got a tail light, a reflector. Holy Jesus. This is like a robot dog. And a headlight. What is this thing? A hat?
No, it's a raincoat.
Oh. Let me see. Look at that. It's unbelievable. I never saw this before.
It's like the Gordon's Fisher dog.
Yeah, in case we do a remake of The Great Storm, or what is it? Oh, gee. Look at this, Kent. You believe this?
We don't have stuff like that down south.
No, down south they don't treat animals that way. Yeah. I think we're in the final adding up of the scores here. Doing the run. There may be one more flight, but we don't know yet. They have to add the scores up. But we did get the contest in despite some really unpredictable weather. Rip, the man who could have won the Nats. He could be the Paul Walker of Georgia if he could only stay awake for a whole day at a stretch.
But we got through it. The wind wasn't that awful, you know. I want to start out with beginner classic. We had 2 entries, which is good. I mean, it gives them an opportunity to fly. And then second place in beginner's classic was, who was that, Yankowski? Is that right?
Hey!
No.
Ooh! Hey! How do fickle finger of fate turn?
Tron over here. Why don't you correct me and keep an eye on me? Thanks, Christina.
Hey!
Yankowski got the first one there. That's the...
Come on, hold up to it.
All right, and we're going to take apart Twister and winning the... Okay, these guys came down from Connecticut. Stole all the stuff.
Hey, John!
And in third place was Al Knight. Where's Al Knight?
Playing with dogs. Playing with the dog. Who let the dogs out? Oh, there he is! Who let the Knights out?
To the dog. The old time.
Who let the dogs out? Dog food.
Four strokers.
4 strokers. Beef.
He's a hero.
Right. Ooh. Is that a 4-stroke ignition?
No, not yet. But watch that speed.
Oh, Jack.
He's the black one, right?
What do you got? I think I gave away her trophy. We'll deal with interview with beginners.
Because you put the wrong one in the van? Is that what you're
That's not
missing?
it.
What
We
are you
didn't have
missing?
third place in that.
They counted the bush volts, I think. You live in Florida? You're in Florida?
We're going to go to straight. We're going to go jump to intermediate.
Really, man? Hey! Give that man you really.
You got me now.
You really got me now.
The other way, too.
In first place in advanced expert classic, we spotted 25 points and he was still 92 points ahead or something. He had Banjock numbers.
Banjock. That's like a disease, Banjock numbers.
All right.
Hey!
Okay?
Time for a new hat, Bobby.
All right, now we're gonna win this.
Hey!
Is the camera on? Hey, you guys don't
live action.
Winning.
God, Rudy beat Dwayne. Is that ever a good feeling? Wow, it's better than beating your wife, huh? Holy crap.
In advance, we right, not qualifying for the Reinhardt Cup fly-off.
Boy, they know how to rub it in, huh, Neil?
Who was in second?
Hey, you should only give him half a trophy.
Which half?
The two-stroke hat.
Winning,
Have more visitors.
advanced expert, or advanced, I mean, advanced, was the Eureka guy.
You really got me going. Woo!
Qualifying for the Reinhardt Cup fly-off. Georgia, I think, right, Bob? Georgia, Bob Dixon.
Bob P-51 Dixon. Hey! Soon to be a P-51 pilot.
In second place, demonstrating his awesome four-strokeism, was Winfred Yurtnowski.
We had that score. Hey!
He flew the tradition,
Thanks.
which I think is already on this probably 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, at least.
This year gets to refinish it. We want to just re-nice.
Dents out of it.
Take some of the dent, but you can sand it too. Some of these guys are sanding people, you know.
Monocoated.
In precision aerobatics expert, first place went to Dan Banchuk with
Hey!
a 570.
A 920.
Qualified young Daniel for the Reinhardt Cup fly-off. Here's your trophy. Where'd he go? Brian was here.
He's in a dumpster again. Oh, there he is. Dumpster
There
boy.
he is. Thank you. Okay, now the numbers were kind of interesting because, as I mentioned, we go, you improve, you fly before the same judges. Young Daniel took a flight. His top score was this impossible 570, you know, with 44s and 48s and stuff around, you know.
Supposed to sandbag.
He came in with a 550.5. He flew at 97% of his score.
Aren't you glad he's telling everybody this? Is it on a need-to-know basis or what?
Over here,
They
Rudy
did it to me too, Danny.
had a 463.5. It was his base score. And his qualifying flight for the Reinhardt Cup was 444.5. So that's 96%. Okay, in other words, Danny flew worse than he did to qualify, but he flew worse. You flew even worse.
You flew worse than Dwayne. That's really bad.
In the
He
advanced,
really knows how to rub it in.
class, the qualifying score was a 501. The you really guy flies backwards.
Oh, no.
He flew a 5035.
Oh! Yay! Hey, does you really guy have a real name? No, I don't.
He ran out of, he came out of, today when he signed up, he says, you know, when I came back to doing this, I called Dave Cook, and he said, well, Cook's gotta like him because he flies backwards. But
And he's cheap.
he was flying intermediate for a while. So he won the last 8 intermediate contests. He said, you gotta fly an advanced. You know, you can't fly an intermediate. He said, oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't.
So he won advanced today, guys, and won this silly cup. And I think next year when he comes back to defend, if you're not a flying expert, we're not going to be real happy.
Are you going to throw that? Because Bobby will boot you up.
No, he knows he's only won this once.
I'd just like to say that I appreciate the reception they gave me. They're a great bunch of guys.
Well, that's for sure.
Bobby, thanks for the money. I wanted to thank you.
Yeah! Want to buy a 4-stroke?
Things were messed up a little bit towards the end there. They did put on a fairly nice meet, I thought. And I'd like to congratulate you all.
Thank you.
you know you're early. Usually we finish about 8:30.
How about a hand for Peabody?
So would you give us an exhibition flight on a ring?
Annie Banjack, the contest is over. People are already driving out on the field looking to squash his lines. He is going to put on the most incredible show of World War I stunt technology that the world has ever seen.
Like the build-up.
Dum 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 dum. The build-up is good, but you got to live up to it. That's the hard part. It's easy to say I'm the coolest guy around.
Hey, I had a feeling that guy was going to take it.
You really did, didn't you? He's flying, the guy's flying. You really did, didn't you? Well, you already run the damn thing. What's the big deal?
What's up?
You already won. Let him refinish it, then we'll win it back. Pull an hour but we'll win it. Okay, Zamboni. This is true technology.
Yeah, this
is innovative technology.
Yes.
And I am impressed.
Because it doesn't get any better.
It doesn't get.
Well, for what looked like doom and gloom.
There was doom and gloom on the ride out here. Don Dixon, we couldn't even get him up this morning over here. Bob Dixon.
I was telling
Man, you ought to see this guy in the morning. Holy.
you know what woke
Rough. He's in rough shape.
me up? I was telling Dan, the wind blowing through my bedroom.
Yeah, I hear you.
Let's see. I got to go around this side. You got to go around.
Did they have to do this to the real plane?
Yes, they did.
Actually,
it's not.
No, nobody.
You need 9 guys, 4 starters.
Just made a shaft, goes right through and ball, pressed on ball bearings. Okay, give it hell.
It's a piece of cake.
Piece of cake. Flies good. What are you talking about? We waited all day for the winter supplies. She can fly it. It's got a 2-4 pusher brake. Now, unfortunately, the battery light is on. I don't know if we're going to get the whole flight, but we'll get what we can get. The amazing Dan Banjock pusher bipe stunt. And thanks a lot. This is now the end of our tarmac flying season, and we will be transitioning over to the circle burner field as of tomorrow. Testing some APC props and trying some different engines and whatever. Who knows what we're going to do? We don't even know what we're going to do. Making wheel pants. think it's great just for fun, period. That is definitely a cool model. Who's steering that thing, Vandrock? Fantastic. Worth waiting for, baby. That was great. Now what we did is before Bob and Kent go back down south, we came to Liberty State Park with the planes. And it's a gloomy overcast. Actually, it was raining when we left the house. But those are the Twin Towers in the background, and we're going to try to shoot some pictures with the Statue of Liberty for Stunt News. With the New York skyline in the background. Oh, I just wish the sun was out. To see these pictures in Stunt News, just remember what a pain we had taking them. Actually, when you pan around here, there's the Statue of Liberty behind the trees. We're going to walk over there later. Hope we can get something that'll be nice for Stunt News. When Joan McIntyre was here, Joan and I climbed the Statue of Liberty as part of her visit to us. What do you think, Bob? You going to get any for Stunt News here? They look so nice. You could really, if you're a professional, and trust me, I'm not, somebody that really knew photography, you could make this look like unbelievable. I think you should put the planes up on the blacktop and then shoot from the reel, put the camera on the ground. Taking photos is not my specialty, believe me.
Angle it some more. Angle it. No, the other way. Now, that's it. Move it straight forward.
Ellis Island over there. When John Brodak was on his last visit here, he had, I think, visited Ellis Island. Maybe he went to Statue of Liberty too. But just hope we get some pictures. And the wind is howling and it's raining. But we will try to get something to remember this great trip by. We did have a great visit the last 4 days. It's been just about as good as it gets in the world of stunt. I know you guys didn't have much fun this weekend, but that's the way life is. So Kent and Bob pack up for the, what is it, a 10-hour trip to your house?
10 to mine.
And then 6 to Bob's. What was and is Gerald Champ's plane is going to be built. We have this in writing. They're packing up the van. Also, you got the cockpit to the Red Baron that's going to go in that plane.
I signed blood for this.
Blood. Gerald Champ and I, you owe us your life. Especially Gerald. All right, now we need one final analysis of your trip.
Awesome.
Had a great time?
Too awesome.
All right, and we will definitely be doing this again in the future, and we'll be coming down to Georgia too. Didn't see them, but as they were leaving, they took all my Brodak dope and it's all got to wind up on that Mustang, that awesome, incredible P51.
Here it is. If you've never experienced this, you got to do this once. Wendy and Karen especially. I mean, Wendy's okay. Karen,
camera off.
Karen,
I hear this coming.
Karen is tops. Absolutely wonderful. Their hospitality is great, and it's fixing to be really difficult to say goodbye. But
all right, where do you want me to leave the $10, Bob?
Yeah. Anywhere.
All right, have a safe trip home. There's something pretty special in today's mail. Walt Brownell's Typhoon from this year, and it's a little different than mine, of course. He's got some options on here. I think it has a bomb, if I remember, it has a bomb drop. I've never seen it in this stage yet with the paint on it. Obviously, he's gone with the brown camo, and we expect to possibly see this at Brodak's and for sure at the Nats or some of the other contests. Walt maybe should come up for the circle burners when they have their fun scale thing. Man alive. And I'm sure this will do the whole stunt pattern without any problem at all. And you get that Z-Tron thing or those electronics working, wow. Gonna be an awesome plane. Looking at this B-25 picture, I have it pinned to my wall every day. I've been looking at it. Oh man. Really appreciate Dave loaning us these pictures. Hoping it wouldn't rain, but unfortunately we got a flood of rain. And I think you can get some idea what happened to our poor garden. What we're going to do in the next day or so, I don't know when they're going to deliver the stone. We're going to lay out, Mike and I and George are going to lay out all stone in this area, get this whole side of the house cleaned up. We have one of the rarest things, a weekend with no contest here, so you can see the grass never grew right, and then it would connect our backyard, which is fully landscaped, to a relatively unlandscaped, this is the last part of the house that we have to work on. You see, this is the pathway on the side of the house that we want to kind of finish this off. Problem with everything here is that we run out of time. I don't know if you remember back on the videos, they gave me this tree for my birthday. It was about this big. It's a flowering plum. Look at it now. It's gonna have to be cut back. Anyway, we did have this terrible storm, and we're gonna have to clean up. Actually, we're gonna miss a day of modeling here, and probably just have to work on the yard. But I hate to see, because Karen put so much work into this. In fact, look at the roses. Look at this. We got a beautiful rose here. He got whacked. Is that a nice rose or what? He got whacked in the storm too. Anytime we have a storm like this, I always try to check all my proofers. They're hiding in the bushes back there right now. Brian Manow had tested some propellers for us. And one of the things, this is actually the beginning of our APC prop tests. We had tried the, I got this wrong, there's a 13.4. We tried the 13.4, the narrow blade. And now what we have, we can see they make a narrow blade and a wide blade. The next time we get out to the field, and I hope we're going to get out soon as we finish this yard work, it's a little project we have rebuilding a house here, the backyard. This is what's nice. First off, APC props really are rigid. They're every bit as rigid as carbon fiber props. But what we're going to do is be sorting through our collection to see which ones fit which engines. Now the next thing, Joe Adamusco has some props, so does Noel Drendak. Sato 72, Joe has some 14.4s, and Noel has for his PA, I think it's a 65, but I don't think it really matters. It's a side exhaust. I sent him up a bunch of 14.5s. I think he'd be wanting to do a little bit more on the more pitch side. But anyway, the point is, we started out with this test. Most of it is not going to apply to the 91 that I'm currently using, but for sure, this is probably going to be the most popular combination. And it looks like we have a nice selection of 14-inch props with different pitch, different blade widths to try. And once we can narrow this down, then we can make up a little chart of when somebody buys an engine, we can kind of give them the prop at the same time, or help them get started, avoid buying 10 that don't work. Going to be the next part of the test is to go through these with the 91, even though I don't suspect a lot of people would be wanting to use a 91. One of the things we want to do is, before we actually get to maybe even to Brodex, but before the Nats, we want to try to laser in here, even if I have to fly it without the cowling. And I want to try the 72. I have a 72 all set up and ready to go in here with the throttle control. But while I have the 91 in here, it's appropriate to try some of these props, and they go up in size. Right, well, probably to 24 inches or something, but this is the range from which I'm going to try to narrow down the prop of my choice. Then I can de-pitch them, fine-tune them. Then when I send it back to APC, they have agreed to make a mold for maybe one for 56, one for 72, and one for 91. Something that really is fine-tuned for what we use them for, because they typically don't make stunt props, but these should be tuned. Again, we're going to find out. One way or another, we're going to learn something in that exercise. Up a thing for the Yacht Club and for Stunt News. I don't know when they're going to publish it. Some of the things we learned since becoming a Sato dealer and selling and servicing and flying their motors. Some of the really do's and don'ts, and I get right at the top of that list, is proper fuel. Now, two people in Texas fried the bottom end of the rod. It wasn't when the motor was running, it was when it first started up. And when I asked what kind of fuel they were using four-stroke fuel. So I guess the rule number one, we have been using GMA fuel. I guess rule number one with Satos, and they tell you right in the literature, no four-stroke fuel. Four-stroke fuel is a fallacy. It's like, I really like the GMA. It's got 22% oil, Power Master fuel. And keep in mind what I try to do is I try to use what I sell. I don't try to sell something and you turn around and I'm not using it. And this is the only fuel I've used the last, I think, 3 years. I've monitored the people in the club that are using it. Nobody that's using the GMA blend fuel. Now, we did have one person go and buy a gallon of Power Master fuel, run to the field. Oh, I got this in a hobby shop for $11. Oh, this is great. And I looked, it was not GMA blend. They make other blends, and the blend that he had 18% oil. I think it was made for helicopters or something. But anyway, this is the blend that you want. Sounds like the construction crew's here. Somebody's at the door. And after checking, and by the way, the construction crew finally got here. The other thing is the Max F, that's for 4-cycle plug. It's a $10 or so plug, $8 or so plug. You can get them from Brodax now. He's carrying them. I carry them. All the hobby shops. But the most important thing, this is the only plug that gives dead reliable runs. Everyone else seems to have a real narrow range. The Max F plug, critical to getting good runs. As I'm interrupted giving my daily lecture on how not to be windy. Oh, look at this. All right, Mikey. We were thinking of covering wings with this. If you're sick and tired of all that, the cost of those carbon fiber wings that Windy makes, I bet there is something in there. There's probably fiberglass or something in there.
Sure.
What the hell is in there?
So nice and light.
Oh, yeah. Like Peabody's plane. Holy. Yeah, double it up wherever you can, wherever you have to. This stuff's cheaper than silk span, too. And you could use the extra stones you get on this job for tip weight. Save all that money on Brodax tip weight. I just hope it doesn't rain. It's not a promising day here in Stuntland. This is my new Corvette here. We just downloaded the new Corvette. Now, Paul Winter is here trying to shoplift things. He's been caught shoplifting before.
Many a time.
Now, let's hear about the Mosquito. Are you going to build this with two Sato 30s?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm going to make it a bit more scale-like.
Two Sato. Johnny Duncan's looks great. That's an easy plane to make, too. It's not a difficult plane to make.
Slightly. Shorten those noses because of the safety.
I would shorten it a half an inch.
Half an inch.
Half an inch would probably be enough.
Yeah.
The way you've been painting things, maybe you should leave it to stock length. Mike's plane, light as a feather. He builds the same plane, 84 ounces. John, what's wrong with this picture? Look at this, he's got more Satos than I... you gonna put two of them in there?
No, that's a 56. That's
Put two 56s in.
Hardly need them.
It's legal.
Why has that got a big shoe and more one hasn't? The ones, the silver ones haven't got the big shoe.
Well, I don't know.
Well, that's...
Call Sato up and find out.
Nice?
Yeah, it looks right.
2 4-strokes in this. Man, you'll win the British Nationals, assuming nobody else comes. You'll be at least third. Yeah, that looks good. That looks like a nice plane, huh, Mike?
Well, things do not look promising this whole weekend. We've had 5 days of rain. We've had just terrible weather. We're going to try to, we'll see if anybody shows up in the field. We have a couple of things we can do in this rainy weather that might be productive. But the point is, even to use a rainy day efficiently, it's always better to use a rainy day and do the work that you normally would do on a nice day. And when a nice day comes, you can fly all day.
It finally stopped raining enough that Mikey's going to put his plane up, but the field's basically half underwater. Anyway, there is some logic to what I said, and it's good logic that I try to do things. For instance, a day like today, you could break in engines, or you certainly could test props. And then when that real nice day comes, a day that you're really going to be, let's see, he's backing up like crazy here, yeah, dead air. Then when you do get a day that it is flyable, you can work on your geometry, your pattern geometry. So some good logic anyway. Anyway, we still have the people from England. John Benzig and Paul Walker are still here. Paul Winter. And as always, this is one of the things I'm kind of proud of, is seeing this plane back in the air after the terrible wing crash. Wow. And see it back flying. Mikey's got his new Cardinal in silver. He just made some parts for it. I think it's almost all in silver now. And that should be, boy, before the summer's over, I hope we have the paint on that. And if it doesn't rain, we'll have a nice day. If it rains, we're going to be in a diner. They're supposed to have an air show. I guess they've canceled it now. At the local airport, there was an air show slated for today. But I doubt with the weather. I don't think we have even 500 feet of visibility. They will not have an air show. That will be postponed, but we'll run up there anyway and see what they got. Anyway, one of the other projects we're going to be working on real soon, we have Mike Cooper is going to be retrofitting an exact copy of this plane. He has a Tiger 60 in it now, and he wants to put a Sato 72 in. And I thought, like all of our retrofits, he could do it down in my shop, and we'd do the combination of supervise it and or do it if he had some problems. I hope he's going to be up here today. Maybe we can even see what he intends to do with that. Anyway, always good to see an old warbird flying after it's been supposedly put to sleep and it comes back to life. That's always a very, very rewarding thing for me. Now, I'll bet Mikey is thinking, why did I fly in this dead air? Oh, I hate dead air. You get stuck with it at the Nats from time to time, but it stinks. One of the bright stars of the future, this event. And always willing to spend some time helping the young kids in the club. His daughter flies the whole stunt pattern. Mike Krzyzewski. And he's great at a cookout. Trust me, this guy can flip a hamburger and nail down a shingle. Mikey K. Breaking in his full assortment of Sato engines here in an unapproved way.
That is Sato 40?
It comes all the way from England. No, it's a 56. Is that 56 or 72? 56. Before running up an engine, the long piece of tubing I try to look at in the first hour of running, or 45 minutes, that the oil comes out black. It's metal wearing in. But at some point in time it starts to come out relatively clear. And at that point, then I'll just go up on the RPM little by little to full throttle. But under 4,000 for the first half hour is what Sato recommends. Give us a chance to figure out just about how much load is on this 13.4W too. Good thing to do on a rainy day.
You may have sent fingers when he came, but...
We're going to be calling them 9-finger... Well, that's a nice carburetor adjustment.
Yeah.
Do you ever know how to adjust a carburetor? Keep it under 4,000, even if it's rich. Oh, we're going to send you for all the carb adjustment school. Amazing. The amazing roll-off. Okay. Just keep it under 4,000 for half an hour and it'll be fine. Now let it be rich like that. Plenty of oil in there. Look at the oil coming out of the bottom. Yeah. Now look at the oil, it's right. When it's new, the oil is going to be dirty. There's new oil coming out of the breather right now. what you can do on your next visit to England. Break in motors.
Yeah.
England isn't like that. Flies all the way from England to fly Rich Peabody's 38 Special. I don't know, I'm thinking this is a better day to break in engines. Here's the best invention I've ever seen. Notice how big the numbers are on this stopwatch, and of course it's a stopwatch too. I bought Karen an anniversary present, a relatively expensive watch, and this came for $10 more, and look at the size of these numbers. And of course, the problem is this thing has 5 buttons on it. So what I did, I know how incompetent I am. I had the guy set the time, the date, and all that stuff, and you know what? It took him about 40 minutes to figure out how to do it. So rather than when I go to Indiana, what I'm going to do is just buy another watch and have him put it on Indiana time, and just leave that in a toolbox. And believe me, that's when you're incompetent in electronics, that's the only way to do it. It's turned out to be a rainy, miserable day. We're not going to do much flying, but Tom's got his new plane here. He can kind of do show and tell on the new. Look at that plane. Get a good photo op, put it right in the water here. Flights? Flip it over, let's see what it looks like. Wow, that looks nice.
It's an SB11. SB11 and a half. It's stretched 5/8 of an inch, and the turtle deck is, I think, 3/8 higher. Okay. It's a little bit higher after the high point.
Boy, that looks nice. Yeah. Bobby's wing? Bobby made the wing, or is that a Randy?
It's a Hunt wing.
How much does it weigh?
60 on the nose, heavier than I wanted.
Ah, that's about what they should.
But it's livable.
Yeah.
Now,
nice.
courtesy.
Look at a tail wheel. Holy mackerel! A double tail wheel.
Yes. Designed so that
the idiots can't push your plane out.
what we think. We have said this one's idiot-proof.
Oh yeah. Well, how many props you bring with you? The only plane is jack-a-bones.
If they can't bend the tail wheel,
let's see how the cowling
they'll
goes.
stand it forward on the mains. Now, the cowling, thank you, Mr. Ertnowski.
Cowling worked out okay?
It's getting there.
Okay.
That's nice. It's a decent, usable piece. This is polyester.
Okay.
And I think that the key to it is to use the epoxy and more glass. I made this one a little too skinny.
What are you running on?
Randy 51.
Oh, it's a 51.
Yeah. PA, that's like the one Rich had that ran real good. Rich's 51 ran better than the other ones I saw.
Yeah. And the pants are also, and you can see the things in the dents. But for a first attempt at molding...
Yeah, but everyone will get better.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to happen automatically. Same thing if you made the first wood wing, the first wood anything. You'd have to work on it.
My first ringmaster, may it rest in peace.
Oh, my God.
Who knows?
We don't want to go there, Tom.
Yeah.
You're going to fly it?
I think that I should, because I don't think...
Well, we can look at the wing being level and...
I think I got that pretty close.
Oh, okay.
Been through the tea kettle once.
Okay.
The wing...
I like this, having the outboard, this deal, like Fancher has with the trim.
Adjustable.
Oh, that's...
I should have done that.
That's what you've done. I'm going to do that on my...
Dial it in. The other thing, I don't know if you do it this way. With this one, I built in a ½ ounce of tip weight. It's outside the box.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I know I'm going to carry
You're definitely
that
not going to have zero.
Yeah. I know I'm going to carry, and then what's in the box is 2 fishing sinkers. Maybe the bolt will stay in place this time instead of vibrating out. Maybe.
Maybe is a big word.
What's the most common last words of the American redneck?
What?
Watch this.
Hey, we have a lot of redneck customers.
So,
yeah.
So as we say in West Virginia, watch this.
Having said that, I think we're going to go to the airport and see what's up boys.
Having said that, we'll repair to the diner and brag about how once were.
Understand, in the United States, when you wear an orange shirt like that, it usually has a big P in the back for prisoner, and you're usually doing yard work on Route 80 or something. We're going to check Tom's plane out, and then we're going to be out of here. Got his, Tom, he's wearing his matching shirts. His prisoner shirt.
Precise.
Oh, man. Come on.
That comes from England and he's color coordinated. Talk about organization. Fashion situation. I'll leave it on the ground.
You need some lighter fluid, Tom?
No, I'm gonna let the blood boil for a minute.
Well, that's smoking. He's got plenty of oil in the fuel. No doubt about that. That's the way those pipes sound. I like the color.
Well, after 5 days in a row of rain, I think the Brits brought the rain, especially Paul. Anyway, it looks like we finally are going to get a day with either less rain or no rain, but the water is everywhere. The field has been muddy but flyable. And this is the day we usually have. It's Memorial Day. It's usually a day that the club has a little bit of a fun fly. I don't know how many participants we're going to have. But we're certainly going to see who shows up. And then we're going to go back to the house and have a relaxing lunch with the kids. Boy, the town looks beautiful this time of year. This is a beautiful place to be this time of year.
Memorial Day fun fly has turned into a Memorial Day rain fly. I think every time these guys from England show up, it rains. Just can't help it. They bring the rain.
Hey, mate! Why not send my sword up front? I thought they were supposed to be down the exhaust. Put the plane down!
I mean to Richard.
2 minutes it's sundown, next minute it's pouring rain out.
Brian, come on, get a flight in before the rain
I
comes.
gotta go get my stuff.
Paper towels wipe that oil off the front. Holy mackerel! What'd you do, an oil change on that?
Oh, Rich, you asked for that, pal.
Yes, it is a Z-Tron day.
Oh, no, isn't it?
A day to learn. What we're trying to do is learn how to use the Z-Tron. But it's a long, bumpy road, trust me.
Mr. Bengzy says he's a lot.
We'll finally get to do some prop testing on Brian's dust stroker, Sato 56 powered dust stroker. The front of that plane is oil soaked.
C'est la vie. I just have to live with it.
I'd leave the oil out of the fuel, that'll help. to do some testing here. We got the EAT props and the APCs and the stooges, and that's a nice installation, Paul.
That's a fantastic. I like the spring.
Where do you see that thing fly? That thing flies great.
I like the spring to the.
You could be the British national champion if you built something that good.
I like the spring to the carburetor to hold it open.
Yeah, yeah, he's got a nice installation there.
So he winds it down.
Absolutely. 110% right.
We're off with a plane. This is Robert Sabatino's
And if you
latest. What shall we call this? Cardinal?
that's why we have hot and cold running blue on tap.
Profile card, Brodak Cardinal, with his own wingtips, kind of a little customized. A Max FP.
Just clear.
He's got a few flights. Did Noel make this control system for you? But I mean, it's Noel Drindak stuff, the heavy-duty stuff.
Yeah, that's the carbon fiber rods.
Yeah, the ones Noel uses.
Titanium joints.
Joints.
Yeah, that's the acceptable stuff. Noel's stuff seems to work okay. This is definitely your best looking plane of all.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did a nice job with the
Excellent. Yeah, really nice.
with the fits and everything.
Hey, the pilot fell off the ceiling. Notice yesterday there was no pilot. Today he
Out
said,
into the woods yesterday.
do you have anything to say?
We dug him out of the tree he climbed up to hide.
Send those guys back to
Nailed him into
England.
that ship, and he's back.
Please send those guys back to England. I'm afraid to fly.
We denied his conscientious objector status.
No, he wants to go to England so he doesn't have to fly. Oh, man. Send me back to England.
Anything but this!
You know, you should name the pilot Mr. Bill. Should be on his helmet. Need to lighten up that plane for the team drills. You're so bad.
You guys are all hard.
You're so bad.
Should have heard him before.
We got Richie good before.
So? Oh man, I'm in for the long haul.
Brian's doing some of our AP. How'd that prop feel the first time you used it, okay? Okay, well those are available. Those you don't even have to, you don't have to do anything to them, just buy them.
I nicked this one up.
I got more. Just tell me which one it is. I got about 30 of them by the house.
Actually, I want to try a thicker blade.
Once with the narrow blade, and the next flight run it with the same everything, but with the wider blades. We'll see. See, I just don't know if that's going to turn a full 13-inch prop. But if it doesn't, just fly it out.
wood.
Yeah. Well, but you don't know. I mean, that's the variables you have to check for.
That's a lot heavier, that APC,
Yeah.
than the single wood. I'm unretired.
Well, hold the plane, huh? Hey, John! Paul insisted they don't start on the first flip. First one on a 56 is going to be the narrow blade, but we do have the wide blades. These are all 13.4s. There's 3 different 13.4s here. And these are for the 56. What's your ass? Wide open. Paul, now tell me something. Here's a guy that last year didn't even know the pattern, and he gets him started on a first flip. What's wrong with this picture? You're supposed to be an expert level modeler.
He's got the throttle wide open, so we'll start first. Our throttles are half shut when we start them.
We'll open them wide up and then shut them after you start it. What's so hard about that? This prop doesn't look too bad either.
The engine's hard over the top of the manoeuvres, isn't it?
Well, that looks like pretty good speed control to me. You guys better buy some APC props while you're in the country. You buy them in England?
Yeah, you get them in England. Yeah, it's quite ready available.
No problem?
No.
He needs a little tweak. The outboard wing is up in outside maneuvers. You see that too? Tell Hampshire to look at it too. Tommy,
So he goes hard.
outside wing looks up a little bit in inverted flight.
Turbulence, John.
Yeah, you're flying through your own air here.
They've gone hard up there, I think.
Alright, first thing he needs the outboard. Outboard, it's down upright, needs a little tab. Okay. And on the test bench today, Mike Cooper's 72, which will be going in a Cardinal later on this week. One of our retrofits. Rich Jacobone's doing some maintenance on his pipe ship. It looks like we've got a pretty at least flyable day anyway. Not a great day, but flying in between the raindrops. Hard to believe, but it's, what time is it? And the sun is out. Maybe because these guys are getting ready to go back to England, the sun came out. Where is he flying here? I don't even know, the biplane. Turned out to be a reasonably nice day. Jim Dameral's here with his PM. A great camaraderie day.
No, it's still leaking oil?
It's still pushing off.
Oh, okay.
Ryan, you need a hand?
Yeah, he doesn't like me to launch it.
Yeah, he doesn't want Mike launching that plane anymore.
We don't bounce it.
I break his prop.
We're running out of props in Australia.
$45 cowl protectors.
Our braking motor is almost at the end of its cycle. Wait, hey, Rich, battery? Nice is what happens is usually the oil. Once the oil starts coming out of the breather clean, motor's done. Once that oil is generally it takes between an hour and a half. The breather tube, once it's clear again, that's the test, and I can look at it, and we're almost an hour into it, we'll just run it some more. Jim Dameral's profile 90% pattern master with a double star, light case motor. On its first real day of flying here, the guys are trying to help him trim it out. And Z-Tron, doing his Z-Tron thing. And now the real contest. Mike Kajeski's flying Mr. Z-Tron here in what's amounting to be some pretty rough wind as the day goes further and further down the tubes here. So we score Mike. Then we're going to score John Benzig and then Paul, and a loser pays for dinner. That's not bad. Next up in the tradition fly-off is John Benzig, who's determined to avoid paying for dinner tonight. Mike scored a 518. I don't know what Benzig's doing here. Extra maneuvers. Extra loops. This must be the English pattern. Hey! 6 loops. Maybe he broke the handle. Oh no, here we go. Now we had this great thing planned. While he was flying, we weren't going to tell him we turned the Z-Tron on and start shutting the throttle on him, but I don't know, because the wind has come up so bad, we decided not to do it to him. Tried to give him a break. I don't know why though, I'm still not sure why. Today we're up, this is the last day. Augie's got his, by the way, he needs nobody to launch the plane with his throttle control. And I have flown this model. This is a great, I mean, if I was into scale, this might be one of the ones I'd consider. But believe me, that B-25 is going to be a killer, even up at this field. I don't know if you've ever flown in a J3. I have very little, but The time that I've flown, I'll remember every minute of my life. I've flown in J3 seaplanes with the doors open. And when a float tips hit the water on a landing, it's a feeling you just can't describe. I have a little bit of Sakabria time, and as much as I like the AT6, my favorite was the old J3 sitting up in the front with the doors off on a hot day. Boy, landing and taking off on grass, there's just nothing like it. Anyway, Paul and John got the fly tradition today. They're going back to England. We're trying to set them up with some goodies that'll be usable when they get to England. But now Augie was one of the first ones that got me interested in throttle control. Actually, when I flew this plane, I got interested in it. He has his own unique system, similar to Fred Cronwet. It's all attached to the handle. Might not be appropriate for stunt, but it's all electronic. There's no Z-Tron. It works totally off electric. Sends the signal down the wires with a servo driver. The nice thing about this, Augie just stays up by the fence here, starts the plane, walks out taxiing it. It's kind of a cool thing. Now that we are using throttle control on a regular basis, I really have to thank Jim Young and Fred Cronwet and Augie and all the people, Sergio Zegras, that have helped me add this dimension to my flying, and it will be one of the dimensions we use on our upcoming B-25 program, for sure. It's not a pipe dream, it's something anybody can do right now.
Now, as we end the visit with our English friends, John Benzig and Paul, I wish we could figure a way to keep Paul from talking so much. God, you gotta put a stopwatch on him. Anyway, this is his two daughters. This is the plane he's gonna be bringing to the Nats, his rendition of Voodoo. Paul, I gotta tell you, your kids are a lot cuter than you. They didn't get a single gene from you. Anyway, we had a good time. And they all got the fly tradition. They all went home dreaming of four strokes. Who knows what they went home dreaming of? Dreaming of moving to America, changing the F2B rules. We're not sure what they're going to do yet. Anyway, Paul's other plane, the rendition of Miss America. And we have a really special treat here from our friend George Eno. George, of course, is the one that made the pilot that's in the Seafire. He's done some pilots for Joe Adamusco in the past. He's actually done a lot of real modeler. He will be at Brodax, and I hope he'll put on a little demo for us of how he does his fabulous pilots, which is just one of many things that he's really, really good at doing. I'd like to pick up some modeling information too. Anyway, this is a really nice book, and this is one that I had never seen, heard of, or had, detailing out our future project B-25. These books, there's just hundreds and hundreds of great little stories, little things that are very interesting to me anyway, and it's going to give me a lot of choices when it comes to actually doing the model from Dave Downey's plans, which are well underway by this time. Virtually every marking that I've ever even heard of or seen, Army, I didn't know that they had B-25s that landed on carriers. The Navy had some. They went well past World War II in service. Over 10,000 were made. The even more prolific British version, and this one with invasion stripes. The post-World War II ones with tip tanks, the bigger engines, the side-mounted cannons, the glass nose. The books are fabulous. The books really are informative and fabulous, really helping me plan out this project before I ever start. As with any project, there's always the final decision, the paintwork, and there are, like the Spitfire and like the Typhoon, just plenty of really nice choices, even for other countries in the war that use the B-25s, not only English and American. Real-life version of the one that appeared in that Mel Gibson movie. Boy, there's a lot of good B-25. I'll have to rent that movie and pull some clips out of it. Forever Young is the name of the movie. I couldn't remember the movie for a minute. I realized just how many versions of that Forever Young type of paint job there are, and there are many. And it's going to give us a real lot of food for thought when we actually get started building the model. There's tons of nose art, tons of different little things to think about. Zambelli already has functioning retracts. Right now we're just thinking throttle control, Z-Tron, and of course Sato 30s. When you have so many different countries with actual models to copy, there's no way you can get to that point where with some models you only have a choice of 2 or 3 color schemes. They're just pretty much unlimited with B-25s, and several of the models were repainted several times. Even here you have the Soviet Air Force version of the B-25. A lot of choices. There's Navy versions, the carrier versions, the radar versions, some of the camo versions, the British versions, invasion stripe versions. You notice on some models, and I've been reading up on this, they've moved the turret from the front to the back. Some of the cannons, different armament in the front, solid noses, glass noses, solid noses, different nacelle arrangements. This is really going to be a fun project. Even one prototype version that was all black. I assume that was a night fighter. A lot of them had different schemes on the rudders. Page after page after page after, it just goes on. Here are some of these, I call them the Forever Young paint schemes with the nose art and the tail art and different things with the solid nose arrangements. And it's just page after page. This is why I love having access to these books, borrowing them. In some cases I read them cover to cover, in other cases I read them cover to cover 15, 20 times. Desert version, the ones they used in the desert that were prototypically pink, a shade of pink, as were the B-24s. And if there's ever any silly, there's probably more nose art possibilities on B-25s than certainly on P-40s, which you always relate to the typical plane with nose art, or with the teeth, the snaggle tooth. B-25s are one of the more colorful ones. Use the 75mm cannon, they could sink a ship. I already collect some posters that we have, B-25 oriented material, as well as we have about 5 or 6 books in the collection already. All good, by the way. We are busy dreaming, planning, and we still have so much work to do with the Typhoon, the Z-Tron, the carbon wing. It's just like my head spins when I try to go to bed at night. In today's mail, and I mean, this is really funny. I almost fell off the chair when I read this. This is from our friend Bruce Hunt. Bruce has obviously made a beautiful rendition of a shark. It's got a Tiger 60 in it, and he said, well, I got a great idea from looking at Windy videos, making a control horn bearings out of tuna fish cans. He says, now the plane smells like tuna fish. Even the finish smells like tuna fish. Well, Bruce, it's a shark. It's supposed to smell like a fish. Anyway, and he says also, and this was cute, he enjoyed the segment the way we were. I've just run out of time in the last month to go looking through old video because I've been so busy at the shop and entertaining people. You can see how many house guests we've had. And he sent me these great pens. Now I know I've used these before. These are the Pilot pens. And we'll be using these on our B-25 project. In fact, I'm going to put them away. The Pilot pens, these are really extra fine point. The red ones are real nice when you're doing center lines and things like that. But anyway, from Bruce Hunt, and we will try to get back to having a Way We Were segment. The problem with all the way is I have to go through sometimes through 10 hours of video to find something I think it'd really be appropriate. Anyway, from Bruce Hunt. Bruce, hope you enjoyed those loaners. Believe me, I never get sick of them. And he's looking out on eBay for some B-20. Now he sent me this Typhoons. He sent me more than a lot of stuff. I really ought to buy him a Christmas present, like buy him a tuna fish can that he can make all his own control horns with. Anyway, Bruce, thanks a lot. Appreciate it a whole lot. The plans, they come from Pat Johnson of a Zero. He He's sending me some just to review, look at, enjoy. And this looks like, well, Joe Adamusco was real hot at one time to make a Japanese World War II fighter. Maybe I'll pass these on to Joe. As everything Pat Johnson does, and he is a master of the CAD-CAM plans. These are really beautiful, in fact, and I hope he'll get this published somewhere so these are available. Notice some of the things I'm noticing. He used a real airfoil, a nice thick airfoil. Plane definitely will be competitive with that airfoil. And the proportions look real nice. That knows that we're in semi-scale mode and just drooling over the possibility of getting some B-25 plans going soon. But just look at some of the beautiful workmanship on these plans. The whole thing when you're going to do one of these planes is to get the to me anyway, get the airfoil right. Because using those skinny airfoils of years gone by, that makes it that the plane has to be so light, and you never get it that light, and that using these what I call the real airfoils, the ones that are on pretty much all of the modern stunners, it almost guarees you're going to have a good plane. And talk about a project. Here's my idea, Pat. Shorten this nose an inch, get a Sato 72 in there, it'll even sound like an airplane. Well, you can get any of these from Pat Johnson. He does everything on CAD-CAM. It's all beautiful. He's even got a Dave Fitzgerald high-efficiency tail. Just a lot of nice, beautifully done as everything. Pat, I hope you get this published. Another addition to the world of stunt. Standing is this is something that last time I spoke to Fred on the phone that he's been working on for a long time. And finally, it's come to fruition. And what it is, it's a control line book. He sent me it's a scale modeling book, but because we're in semi-scale mode, and by the way, this looks like Keith Trossel's Martin Baker, just to name a few. Some of the other really beautiful planes that we've seen in control line. And this looks like, I'm looking forward to reading this. There's just page after page. Some of the things that are really, really impressive. We've seen his seaplanes on video. We've seen the control. He's been the force. I think I mentioned that while Augie was flying before. By the way, a funny thing happened to Augie. The wire disconnected at the lines. That's why his throttle wasn't working on that last flight. But anyway, just some of the beautiful projects. And Fred has been really innovative. If you have any interest in scale, and it doesn't matter with everybody building stunt planes. I mean, there's a B set. It's just beautiful. This is something. Is Keith's plane? That's a Nats winner, and one of the ones. This canopy, by the way, is one of the things that inspired the Seafire. You just can't lose. It's excellent information, beautifully done, detailed. All the throttle control electronics, the things that I've used over the years. Anyway, beautifully done. From Fred Kronwet, and that is something, really something I think everybody would enjoy. Now, what I chose to do today, I looked at the air, and it is, for all purposes up here, it's not going to be a flyable day. But I'm going to use this day. I finally have the batteries, the transmitter, everything in here, ready to run the Tron in the Typhoon. That is the first time I've ever run it in the Typhoon. So what I want to be sure I do is on the first day, we're certainly not going to go trying anything too fancy. But what I really wanted to do, hopefully, is at the end of this day, get kind of familiar with how it's going to work, and if I need to adjust or change anything in this plane. Always a good thing to be very, very conservative, especially for me. And since this is basically all new, the tip here is going to be to go real conservative. And actually, I'm glad it's the kind of day it is where I'm not going to be tempted to do any real flying, because you really want to have a day just to, look at the size of this hawk flying over there. I just want to have a kind of get familiar day. Now, it's kind of bulletproof on tradition. In fact, I'm getting to the point where I don't think about it much anymore, but whenever you have a new plane, plus this plane is still got room to be improved on handles and trim and tweaking little things and whatever. And you try to keep it pristine, but reality sets in at some point in time. Anyway, this will be the first day, and I do mean conservative. And what happens with tradition, and I don't even know how to describe this. It uses about an ounce less fuel, because when you're running the throttle in level laps, you're running it, say, 2/3 open, you're not using quite the amount of fuel. So for sure, at the end of the flight, you want to shut it off, or you'd probably go crazy, because what would happen is you'd never have the same amount of fuel used twice. In other words, having a Venturi, it'll be relatively consistent, but even then, you're still fighting it back and forth. Boy, it's cold out here this morning. Whew. I'm getting spoiled. I'm going to have to move to Anaheim. Anyway, still one of the things that I'm very careful of is making sure I don't leave the battery on. In fact, it would be nice to just get a set of eyes. My mother just had laser eye surgery. She can see better than I can now. Set it on the ground for a takeoff roll.
Finding as the day wears on is that I can get the whole pattern if I'm using the throttle in the whole flight, and that means at the level laps they're about half to 2/3 throttle, and then at the end of the flight the overhead 8 is wide open. I'm using just a little less than 4 ounces of fuel. Now I don't know, you see, the reason you couldn't do that with a Venturi, because what would happen, the wing over would be too fast and the overhead 8 would be too slow, and there's really, this plane, even more than tradition, is giving me a lot of options, because when I hit the throttle on this with that big prop, it goes vertical. But anyway, it's gotten totally unflyable after about 5 flights. We're getting about 9 to 10 flights out of a battery, so even though I have 5 flights on this, what I'm going to do is put a new battery in for the next session, just as a matter of precaution. I really feel like even in a short session like this, which is plagued by some nasty air, again, that time factor I always say is by using a day like today to debug or get familiar with something. Really couldn't test any props today, even though I have all those APC props ready to test, because the air is just basically, I'm a coward. Now, I could spend the rest of the day out here with, tradition or another plane or whatever, but what we're trying to do, because Brodax is coming up quickly, we're trying to get a lot of things ready in the shop so that we can basically take a half a week off without having all my customers mad at me. So I would say for the first day out, we have used the throttle control, and this was one of my original dreams when I envisioned the plane, was to have what amounts to be a very powerful motor that I could at any time just open the throttle wide open. You know, it's scary when you go through an overhead 8 with this wide open. There is no such thing as no line tension. And being able to slow it down a little bit for the wing over, the shortcoming of this whole thing is my level of skill. Now, see, somebody who's had a lifetime of playing video games or whatever, something more ambidextrous than me, I think they would learn a lot quicker. But we're going to keep learning. We're for sure going to try to get this ready so we can make a nice demonstration at Brodax, and for sure, so hopefully we can compete if everything goes as planned. Get some more props tested and compete with this at the Nationals. And it will be, unless we test, we're not going to have time. The way things are looking, look at that wind blowing. We're not going to have time to really do as much testing as we wanted, so I'm trying to narrow it down to what I think will be the most productive things. And right now, the most productive thing is to get out of here and go have some breakfast. Now, I came home to what amounted to be something I overlooked. See, I always think I'm pretty sharp and I don't miss things. Well, I missed something. I flew, I think, 5 flights this morning, and one of the things, the last flight, of course, the air was really getting rough, and what I did, got done with the 4-leaf clover, and shut the motor off, as I always do. I don't want to land with the motor running on grass. I landed the plane, went to wipe it off, and I noticed, uh-oh, I've got a problem. What had happened is, there was some fuel in a muffler. And I said, oh, wait a minute. When I shut it off, I don't really drain the tank. And in this case, since it's a 6-ounce tank and I'm only putting 4 ounces in, there's still 2 ounces of fuel in it. Now, I could obviously have Joe make a smaller tank, but then I wouldn't have the option of, say, running different nitro fuels or something else. But what I do need to do is at the end of a flying session, when the day ends, I need to just run the thing out of fuel. Or else I have to come home, and I came up with a good system for what I'll call defueling the plane. Now, this plane, there's more maintenance to this plane than there is for a traditional plane for a simple reason. You have more features. It's like there's a price to be paid for features. Well, at the end of the day, I'm going to put a new battery in there. That's no problem. I have 4 batteries now, and I always use 1, 2, 3, 4. I use the next sequential one, so I always have a fresh battery. A battery lasts 9 to 10 flights, and at the end of 10 flights, I need a break anyway, and I usually flip it over and just put another battery in. If that's the case, with the red plane, that's the case. Haven't gotten 10 flights on this yet. But it's something I have to remember is the last flight of the day. Now, if you're at a contest, that's not going to happen. So what I did is I came up with a way of defueling the plane that I think is useful. Now, like I said, this is something I had overlooked in my extreme intelligence. But at the end of a flight, there is, what I'm trying to do is jack up the nose just a little bit, and I have a defueler, of course. But it would be, if we're just practicing, is the last flight of the day rather than the shut-off, by the way, is absolutely beautiful. The taxi part, I can just tell, oops. But what I'm going to do is pull out some of the fuel here. I need to get a new one of these guys. Boy, there we go. Look at this, I'm getting raw fuel and everything. Well, maybe we need a little bit better system here, Wendy. The little things you don't think of like this can really plague you at some point in time. Well, this is not going to be practical. Well, we're getting a few out, but what I need to do is go get a new one. Now see, if this had happened to somebody else, I would say, you cheapo, go buy a fuel, one of these little, look how much fuel is still in there. Now what it is this this much less fuel I'm using on every flight. So that's something to consider, that at the end of a year, that might come out to 5 gallons of fuel, I don't know. But what I'm going to do is, I thought of a little bit better way, in fact, I need to get another one of these fuel, this is not practical. Anyway, the reason I'm showing this is the way these things evolve. You think of everything in the beginning, but you really don't. So what I thought about doing now, what I think I'll do is just hang this by the lead-outs. That'll put the uniflow pipe right in the corner, and I can really get every drop of fuel out. Now the reason for not leaving fuel in the plane, number one, I don't want to come to the plane in the morning in the van, and I don't want fuel in my van dripping and drooling. I don't want the muffler to fill up, because then when I put the battery on, it winds up going on the leading edge of the wing, which I've noticed. So this is just one of those prices you have to pay when you have extra features in the plane, but it's still looking like
having these features is really not, but it is really impressive to fly the four-leaf clover, come around, start slowing the motor down, and just pick a spot and go off. Funnier, I go to empty this, and the thing comes off. This bird, get out of here. The seal actually comes off. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to get a brand new one of these, that's for sure. I think we'll give this one away to, forget it. I had no idea what the now see the lifespan, these things, you can see this one is shot, the rubber is coming off, so basically time to deep six this and get a brand new one. Think I'm cheap. Well, anyway, we found out one thing, those seals don't last indefinitely. That's another thing. Anyway, these are from SIG. I'm sure John Brodak sells them too. These are not high-tech things, but certainly something we're going to need for the team trials one way or another. Okay. Always nice to have something new in the shop. See if this is any better. Oh, yeah. But now, see, here's the problem. Taking the fuel out this way, this is not an insignificant thing, by the way. I have to really remember to do this. Every time I fly the plane, I'm not using that fuel. Well, I already pulled some out. What am I talking about? I'm going to hang it by the lead-outs, and I'm sure I'll get even more out. It's not funny. I remember Jimmy Casale having and I mean a really beautifully buffed-out front-row plane, and he went to turn it over. Look at this thing. I'm getting raw fuel on everything. I don't believe this. Okay, number two. We can't do that way. I thought this was going to be kind of easy. It's turning into more of a job than I thought. Notice I haven't edited this out of the video because this is something somebody else may have to figure out. We'll come up with a better system. I know I could buy a little electric pump and put a 10-foot piece of tubing on it. That would do the same thing. The idea is to get every bit of fuel, and you can see I'm getting a lot more out. It's probably going to be a full 2 ounces that comes out of here. And I certainly don't want to leave it in a plane, especially when it's in a hot car. I don't like to leave it in anyway, just for there we go. Now I'm getting air. You know what, rather than trying to take this tube off, because I know what's going to happen, I'm going to drip fuel. Let's just take this over to the table with that. Get off of me, bird. I feel like this is a rehearsal for a Three Stooges episode. I put the thing on the floor, and the lid comes, the plunger comes out. So now I have a nice fuel-efficient floor. Anyway, it's always some crazy little problem like that that can just make you crazy. Okay, there's no fuel in the plane now. We can put it away for our next test session. Put another battery in it, and hope that maybe, just maybe, we're going to get some weather tomorrow. Not so sure we are, though. But you never know. We're coming up on Brodak's. You don't even know how to defuel a plane, Artnowski. I don't know, Peeps. Peeps is not impressed. He's over there eating that fueler. Anything on that fuel? You want to take that fueler and put it in your cage? This bird. Look at this. Look at this. As I'm talking, it's like he understands English. You want that fueler? Isn't there some way I can blame him for this? This atrocious lack of technology? Oh, Peepsy, Peepsy. Look, he likes that fueler. Want to buy a SIG fueler for Christmas? Anyway, I came home to a note on my workbench, too. Peeps is eating the note. Wendy, call Rich G. He has a plane emergency. We'll see what Rich has done. I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to paint in cold weather. Cool weather, I should say. Now, today what I did, I set up the plane. It's supposed to be a nice day today. We're going to find out. I got up real early. I set up the plane with the 3-bladed prop. I don't have a 2 1/4 inch spinner yet that's adaptable, so I just put a 2-inch on so I could have a spinner to maintain the balance of the airplane. But this is the biggest bolly that Randy had. It's from Randy Smith. It's a full, it's really 13 3/4. And what they did, I think I put this on the video before, they've kind of like, in the mold making process, added little tips to what is normally a 13-inch prop. Now I don't know how this is going to work. It's a 4.5-inch pitch,
But we have the 13, the prop that's just like this, that doesn't have the tips. That one's working real good on the 72, so what'll be an interesting comparison is if this is going to be able to, and I'm sure it is, if it's going to be able to turn the full, let's call it a 14-inch prop, even though it's 13 and 7/8. And what it'll do, what I'm hoping it's going to do is, now that we have the throttle control, see, a lot more things are possible. But when you're doing prop testing, and I'm doing the APC prop tests on Tradition at the same time we're making this video, and they are very lengthy and boring at best. But one of the things you can do when you don't have a throttle control, you take off with a prop with too much pitch. What happens? The plane is going too fast, so you basically just fly out a 9 or a 10-minute flight when it's lean. Then you go rich, it's too slow, and you can't really do the pattern. What this allows you to do is to fine-tune every setting here exactly the way you want it. Now, I even thought of something. See, you can't use a throttle in the team trials, but I even thought of something that might work. Is there's no law against having it in the plane. You're just not allowed to use it. Now, whoever made that brilliant rule they ought to really reconsider what their modeling goals were. But one of the things you could do is you could take a practice flight, and you could set the throttle exactly where you wanted it. Now, you wouldn't have the option of shutting it off. That's the problem. But you'd certainly have that. You could use it in the middle of flying, get it exactly where you want it, then come back down and tack the motor and repeat that, on a pretty infinite basis. And then when you're flying in a team trail, just don't use leave the transmitter in the contest director's hands like they leave radios. But anyway, and one of the choices we have is later on we're going to hopefully be able to get the laser in one of these planes, and of course we want to before the year is over, we want to see if a 72 in this plane. Now a 72 would bring this plane down to about 60 ounces. And what it would do, it would also allow me to have other trim possibilities that I don't really have with the 91, different props and whatever, different readout locations. But for right now, I'd say for something that's totally, and I mean totally experimental. I mean, there is nobody I know of that's run competitive stunt patterns in a plane with a full finish with a 91 anything, let alone a Sato. So what I'm real happy about is that we've gotten this far without really too much effort. We have our spare gear on. We have plenty of spare mufflers. Like Midgley is making even another muffler as well as the Zambelli one, so we can try this with a little bit of weight out of the front. Warren Walker's been welding the stingers onto one. He's still got it. A lot of choices, and by having a lot of choices, what I find is almost always one good setup comes out of it. The more choices you have, the more chance there is that you're going to find something that you really love. In this case, I get two things. I should be really thankful for how well this whole project has gone, and I just have a feeling we have really 2 weeks before we have to go to Brodex, we'll be able to fine-tune some props, do some other little things that'll make this even a better presentation. And that's the plan as we go into the 2 weeks before Brodex. Mention this as one of the things I always like to try. If I want to try a more radical CG, in other words, if I want the CG back, I can fly without the spinner altogether. One possibility. I can wrap solder on a tail wheel. But it's always a better possibility if you can eliminate the weight at one end of the plane rather than add it to the other end. And I think that's pretty universally accepted technology in the world of stunt, that it's always better to lighten the heavy side. And in this case, we could even make, things that we still haven't even toyed with these, we could make one of these spinners up. Maybe we can find a lighter spinner, I don't know. Since we broke that one spinner, I'm real hesitant to try anything new in terms of spinners. But certainly one of the choices, the lighter mufflers. We can also, at some point in time, and we're closing in on having this carbon fiber gas tank tooling finished, Jimmy's just about done with it, we can make up a carbon fiber tank that'll probably knock another ounce out of the nose. And I think if we're real, by the time we get to the team trials, the plane will be under 60 ounces for sure. So, in the meantime, we're just having as much fun as I've ever had with a modeling project. This has just been one of the better ones. And I know that B-25 is going to be even better. brain dead. So there's not much chance we're going to be able to do consecutive loops or things in the same spot unless we get some air coming up. Look, you can see how wet the grass is. See my footprints from carrying the plane and the stooge and everything out here. But one of the things I want to try today, I actually want to try getting some stunt patterns. I'm just not going to be able to put one maneuver right on top of the other until we get some air. Here's the problem. Backing up in this wet grass can be hazardous to your health. Anyway, we want to try this. This is a Randy Smith. It's 13 7/8. Now, one of the things I suspect with this, with the three-bladed prop, it'll have maybe some benefit, maybe no benefit, but there's definitely one benefit that you can't calculate is when you land in this wet grass, the plane almost always noses over. And a three-bladed prop protects the cowl, so I know that isn't the reason most people use a three-bladed prop, but one of the side benefits. Now, one of the things we wanted to look at is the battery life. Now, what I thought I'd do today is I'd turn the unit on in the plane and just leave it on and see how many hours it went, instead of shutting it off between flights. Just see if the gross time it'll run is like an hour, half hour, 2 hours, what. I'm getting, the first couple of times that I timed it, I was getting 8 to 10 flights per battery charge. And one of the small benefit of the three-bladed prop, you get just a bit more of ground clearance. And that would be handy if we were taxiing around. We're obviously not going to taxi in the grass. But one of the things we have been able to do even yesterday is when the pattern is over, clear the lines, and then little by little start bringing the ground speed down, and then pick a spot. And normally what I do, I pick a spot right about by that white post where I cut the engine and just let it glide in because I don't want it to land in wet grass with the propeller turning. But I'm picking and I'm thinking I have maybe a little less than a half a lap before touchdown. Now that in itself would be real convenient because a lot of times you see guys that are trying to do, especially with pipe motors, do a loop and shut the engine off and it doesn't shut off and you go, and you feel it really gets you nervous and annoyed. Well, this is that part of it is in the bank. That part is dead reliable. We can shut the engine off. Another thing too, there's been times when I've had a run that for whatever reason I wasn't happy with or something, and I just say, gee, I had the carburetor set too rich or too lean. I just say, why fly it out? Just shut it off, save the fuel. In fact, you saw that episode yesterday where I forgot on the last flight. Whatever the last flight of the day is here, we need to just run the tank dry and level flight. Anyway, we're learning little by little. This package is coming together. The Z-Tron is working just about as, when I dreamed about this, I never expected it would work this good. And Bill Young, I'm saying, I don't know why I keep calling him Jim Young. He is, again, making a special handle that I hope we'll have soon to test, maybe even by Brodax. And when we're out this early in the morning, it's usually cold here this time of year. It's not cool in the morning, it's cold in the morning. So usually the first start of the day it requires either a little prime or something. But of course if you're in competition, one of the things like the Tune pipe guys do, and I think it's the best way to do it, is just run the engine in the pits, get it warm, and then on an official flight, you probably would have no problem at all. The learning curve is very, very steep at this point in time. Everything we're learning. Now this is usually what I do the first run of the day, or just touch that. And usually that'll do it. Having said that, you know it's not going to start. That's for sure. Now I also have to remember to turn this on.
When it's on, you hear a little beep, a little click. You don't want to, when it's bumping that bad, you sure don't want to hit it.
Well, one thing I'm definitely convinced we have in the bank is the takeoffs and the landing part of this is really sweet. Now, because the air is stone dead, I'm not even going to bother trying to do stunt patterns until we get some air here, because at this field it really can bite you. And again, I'm being real conservative. This is only the second day out with the throttle control in the Typhoon. And I still haven't even figured out exactly what and how I'm going to be able to use this. It's a new thing, and I think at this point in time it's just best to be real, that with the air as dead as this, be real conservative and try one thing at a time to get this figured out exactly. As an example, what I like to do is set the ring over speed, and as soon as I'm done with the ring over, up it just a little bit for the round loops. Well, I don't know how much. 1 click, 2 clicks, 5 clicks. See, that's the part of it I still need to work on. And it's all new, and the most thing, it's all fun at this point in time.
I missed. There's a P-51 just flew over. Right there.
I pulled them out of the flights that we just took.
When the air is dead like this, it is extremely adventurous. I guess that's the best word. But it doesn't look like we're going to get any air yet. Usually if it's not blowing by now, the whole day will be dead. But we do get, I got some preliminary data on this prop. This prop will be fine. It won't even need to be pitched. And that's even nicer. With the three-bladed prop, it's using a little bit less fuel. Let me just count this to make sure. 2, 3, 3 1/4, around 3 and a little bit, doing the whole pattern. And the reason for that is because with this prop, there's less of a load and I can shut the throttle more than with the big 2-blade. It seems like it might have a little bit more corner with this prop. Not really a factor because we got more than enough. It's a question of just how much do you want. What a beat. It was cold this morning, it's getting warmer. I'm getting older.
Typhoon. See, when you don't empty the tank either, you always get a couple of drops coming in the muffler. That's not so cool.
And the battery hasn't gone dead yet, so we'll see. And I love the takeoffs. Usually when you let a plane go, it's like a dragster. This you can kind of, even though I don't like to roll it out into the grass. Mustang went over before. There's an air show this weekend. We may get to go to the air show.
Well, I usually get to go, but I don't know if I will this weekend.
But what happens if you volunteer for a few hours to do some maintenance? I guess it's generic cleaning up and maintenance. They let you in the air show for free, so I had planned originally to go over there, but what's happened, it's turned out to be such a nice day, I figured I'd stay here and fly. I wanted to get on a tape. One of the things I've been getting a little more creative and aggressive about using this throttle and plate, especially in the verticals and the hourglass. It's scary. It's scary to see that I'm just not good enough or talented enough to be able to do these two things at once. It's really, if you can explain it to somebody that way, it's scary. Now, one of the choices I have right now, if I wanted to retrim the model right now, I could go take a 4-ounce Brodak tank and put it in here and probably get another ounce of weight out of the nose. Because what's happening is I'm only using a little over 3 ounces of fuel, almost the whole flight except for selected places. It's probably running less than half throttle. Anyway, these are the things, and it's getting hot now, by the way. You start off here cold with a jacket. I always say it's the day you come to the field with a jacket and a heater on, and you leave with the air conditioner and you wish you had shorts.
Well, you can't really wear shorts at this field yet because we have West Nile virus and the mosquito. This is a breeding ground for the mosquitoes, so. And we've gone. I'm gonna have to guess we've gone 2/3 of a gallon of fuel, and the battery still isn't dead in the Z-Tron. In the unit that's in the plane, so we're getting maybe more than 10 flights. Again, I'm going to basically change the battery every day, no matter what. And I'll see if I can record some of these vertical 8 things. They're kind of cool. Just see it.
Funny maneuvers. We're not flying stunt patterns. What I'm trying to do is learn all the idiosyncrasies of the system. And like anything else, it's just going to take time. So I hope you enjoyed watching some of those funny. They are funny, believe me. There were some funny vertical 8s, some funny overheads. I try to pick the ones that I thought were the best. Anyway, it's back to the shop. And maybe to that air show if we get done here.
Get back from a day of using a Z-Tron, and we haven't killed a battery during a day yet. I don't think we have. I have 4 of these now. I just simply put one. There's always one on charge overnight. I mark the charger so I know which is which. It's got a Dean's connector. And I want to, looking back, I want to thank Fred. He really was an inspiration of sending me that video with the seaplanes, which is on the Z-Tron videos right in the beginning. Augie was out there with the Cub today. He was working with the Cub, having fun. Throttles add a little dimension to certainly the scale models, and actually adding some fun to my dimension of developing things for the Typhoon. Anyway, the challenge I enjoy most in my career of model aviation, and which has become my business and my livelihood, the thing I enjoy most is developing things, especially things that are relatively difficult to do. And that's that old saying, we don't go to the moon because it's easy, we go there because it's a Tron. We're getting ready for the Brodak meet. The Brodak meet is coming up in 2 weeks. We're going to start preparing for it, try to make a good presentation, and of course we'll be shooting video for anybody that's not a real subscriber or doesn't get all the tapes. This will be a chance for you to be there, even if you can't make the trip across country or from another country or from England or whatever. We're going to have a bunch of house guests in-house this next week, and it's going to be an exciting week in the shop. I hope you'll join us. If nothing else, I'm already dreaming about this B-25 project for next year. It's funny, my friend George Venturini keeps reminding me of something.